Violence has always haunted this family. It followed us from the Scottish Highlands and the slums of Dublin.
That is the voice of Elsa Dutton, brother to Spencer and John Dutton, and she died in 1883, but her voice has been used effectively during select episodes of 1923 and throughout Season 5 of Yellowstone. For about half of Season 1 of 1923, I thought she gave away the ending. Listen for yourself.
My father had 3 children. Only one would live to see their own children grown. Only one would carry the fate of this family through the Depression and every other hail the 20th century hurled at them.
If you remember what happens, you're with me. If not, we'll get there. This 1923 Season 1 recap video is going to focus on the highlights so you're up to speed when Season 2 begins. The big questions are why the Dutton Ranch is in immediate danger and how Spencer and Alexandra will reunite, or if they'll reunite. Remember this scene?
Embarrassment! I'm coming to embarrassment, Montana!
I suppose we should begin with a reminder of the principal characters. We have Jacob and his wife Cara Dutton, played by Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren. And as I watched through this season a second time, I realized how badly I underestimated Helen's acting. She's very, very good in this show. On the family timeline, Jacob is brother to James Dutton, played by Tim McGraw. Kind of remains to be seen how we get to Kevin Costner's John Dutton, but I do think we'll find out by the end of Season 2. Together, Jacob and Cara raised Spencer and John Dutton, who, along with Elsa, was James and Margaret's kids. Margaret died in the late 1890s. John and his wife Emma have a young son named Jack, who's fixing to marry this woman, Elizabeth Stratford. And yeah, that's the same actor who plays Ainsley Norris in Landman. Episode 1 is a bit of a place setter. We learn that there are battle lines being drawn between cattle farmers and sheep farmers, mostly over grass because there's this terrible drought. We learn that Spencer is in Africa, working as a professional big game hunter, and he's got a few demons. Through the eyes of Teonna Rainwater, we get an education on Native American boarding schools run by Catholics. There's just no denying how challenging this part of the show is to watch. The first time we see Teonna, she's beaten by a priest after she beats a nun up, and that happens again and again until she finally kills 2 nuns and escapes. Watching this part of the show sort of feels like confession. I mean, you sort of dread it, and you think you're going to be better off for it, but salvation feels like it's a long, long ways away. But that's kind of the end of Episode 1. Episode 2, more of the same, although tension between Jacob and the leader of the sheep farmers, a man named Banner, escalates. You see, he tried to feed his prairie maggots on Jacob Dutton's land, and, well, it doesn't go well. But miraculously, Banner lives to talk about it and plots revenge. There is more abuse of Teonna, but at the very end, we meet Alexandra, and here, with this woman, the show truly begins to turn into one of the greatest love stories I've ever seen. She asks Spencer why he lives such a dangerous life.
Because dying is the most alive you'll ever feel.
You don't see the romance in that.
Alexandra is actually British royalty, and she was engaged to this weenie of a man, but in a few conversations, she falls for Spencer and wants to adventure with him. So, as he's leaving to go hunt for more big game, she chases down his motor car and says,
Please drive.
That's it for table setting. Episode 3, titled The War Has Come Home, is when this show gets going, specifically the second half of Episode 3. Spencer and Alexandra run off to Nairobi for a hunt, but take a little bit of a side trip to see fossilized human footprints when this happens. He shoots the elephant, but they have to climb a tree and stay out of the way of lions who come to feast on it. Somehow they find time for a private moment in the tree. She calls it a ravaging, which is, kind of sexy, kind of adorable. Eventually the lions do come, and Spencer takes action until they're rescued.
You're still my fiancé.
We'll talk about it in the car.
All good though. Let's move on to Episode 4, which is... oh, wait, hold on. There is one more thing about Episode 3 we need to discuss.
I'm a man of my word!
Run.
As they're returning home from Bozeman, all of the Duttons are attacked, and there are costs. Jack is shot, Elizabeth is shot, but don't worry, they both survive. John Dutton is killed. Elizabeth's father is killed. Jacob is wounded severely, but his men return in the nick of time to fight off the shooters. The episode ends with doctors rushing to save Jacob and Kara, stepping aside to call Spencer home.
Your brother has been killed. By the time you receive this letter, I suppose your uncle has been killed as well.
If you're gonna watch just one episode to get back up to speed, start right here with episode 3.
My father had 3 children. Only one would live to see their own children grown. Only one would carry the fate of this family through the Depression and every other hail the 20th century hurled at them.
You see why I say the show may have given it away? I mean, do the math here. She has to be referring to John Dutton, but maybe not. There's something else coming that sort of obfuscates the truth. Episode 4 begins with the cleanup and, well, the cleanup. Jacob lives, but says, don't tell anyone.
Because then the world will know. We will ignore that this has happened. No sheriff, no posse.
You see, if the world learns he's weak, thieves will come upon the ranch and kill them all. So they sent Spencer a letter by post, not by cable, which would have saved months from his journey. He's on some tropical coast with Alexandra, kind of just ravaging each other all over the place.
It seems I want to show you something actually means I found a new place to ravage you.
So many ravagings. Until Alex convinces Spencer to read his dang mail, and we learn an important plot twist. Alex and Spencer's timeline was ahead of the Duttons, so by the time he reads about the attacks with Alexandra, 3 months have passed. That's kind of terrifying, but it's also only the beginning of their journey. Back in Montana, 3 things happen. The first is that Jack's mother, Emma, dies by suicide, which wasn't nearly as sad as you think it would be. The second is Banner befriends this guy, Donald Whitfield. He's played by former James Bond actor Timothy Dalton. Don's rich and a powerful gold miner, and he agrees to fund Banner's army to get the Dutton Ranch. Meanwhile, Kara begins to build an army of her own by calling for the creation of what we now call the Livestock Agency. On the way out, she runs into Banner, the guy who shot her husband.
Men kill with bullets or a noose, which is to say men kill quick. Their fight is with me now. I kill much slower.
She also lets him know that the cavalry is coming.
I can't wait for you to meet my nephew.
The boy doesn't impress.
Not that one.
Episode 5 is where we get the clue that indicates Spencer will die. It comes once again via Elsa Dutton.
Montana is the magnet now. It is the next journey. And for my young brother, it will be his last.
I don't know what's going to happen, but I do believe Spencer will get home. Otherwise, what's the point of all of this? I don't think that Teonna is ever going to meet the Duttons, however. I think the purpose of that plotline is to get us to the show Yellowstone, where her ancestor, Thomas Rainwater, ends up with the whole Yellowstone Ranch. These plot lines are just going to run parallel next to each other. Donald Whitfield is getting more aggressive in his attempt to squeeze out the Duttons, but that fight is still at just a simmer. Honestly, this is sort of a slow episode. Jack and Elizabeth fight and they make up and decide to marry themselves. Spencer convinces a tugboat captain to take him to the Suez Canal, and he's gonna leave Alex, but she stops him.
You only get to choose me once. The choice will not be offered again.
Spoiler alert, he chooses right. He also sends word to Kara that he's coming home via a ship called the Teonna, which was actually an early 20th century ship. In fact, every vessel that Spencer and Alex travel on was real, which is just so cool. Less cool is that the tugboat gets hit by a ghost ship and capsizes. In real time, that felt like a terribly mean cliffhanger, but here you only need to wait about 30 seconds. The episode ends with Elizabeth telling Kara that she might need to get married real soon because, yeah, I'm pregnant.
That is the first good news these ears have heard in months.
The joy is short-lived, however. By the end of episode 8, Elizabeth miscarries, so John Dutton Sr. is not born yet. No surprise that Alex and Spencer survive the capsizing and spend a day on the hull of the ship until they're rescued by the land bridge. I really teared up during this scene, but this next one made me cry like a mother at her daughter's wedding day.
Try this one. Belongs to my wife. I wear it when I'm on this eve. Since she would approve.
So, Spencer and Alex are now one, and they honeymoon like newlyweds. So many more ravishings. Another emotional moment comes here.
There is no putting me back. We are one now.
Yep, that's going to get tested in episode 8, but episode 6 wasn't really a big plot mover for the couple. It was for the Duttons of Montana, however. Kara Dutton hires her first livestock agent. Unknowingly, she hires this guy, his name is Clyde, who is a spy for Don Whitfield. Then she returns home and tells her husband that she wants a generator, a clothes washer, and a car for saving his life. Once he agrees, she does the thing he didn't want and tells the sheriff what happened with Banner.
Now, I know what you're up to, and I won't allow it. I'll arrest him in the morning.
For the pure acting, episode 6 might be the best. The sheriff, played by Terminator 2 actor Robert Patrick, is tremendous. Jacob Dutton gives a great monologue towards the end of the episode, and the relationship between Kara and Jacob just feels alive and fresh. Liz and Jack also paw at each other like young lovers. Would you believe that a show set in 1900s rural Montana could be so hot?
Look at her like this. You can't get more pregnant.
That takes a kinky turn in episode 7. I can't really show you what happened between Don and the 2 women that Banner hired before getting arrested, but it's pretty bad, and it gets worse in episode 8. We get a real good idea of how evil this dude is.
I'm a businessman. The word decent doesn't apply to me.
All of that is far more comfortable than what happens to Teonna. I said that episode 3 was the one to watch. This is probably the episode to skip, and it's not because it's not any good or because it's not helpful. It's just so uncomfortable. The priest sent to find Teonna first comes across this guy, Pete Plentyclouds, but Teonna's father runs with horses, finds them, and bludgeons one priest while she and Hank kill the other 2. Sadly, one of the priests got off a shot and was able to kill Hank before he dies. That's how Runs with Horses, Teonna's father, finds him the next day to start episode 8. Quickly, he and Pete rush off with Teonna, and the 2 kids begin to fall in love against the wishes of Runs with Horses.
They've been trying to kill me since they took me. I don't believe in later. I believe in right now.
Bit of a sad coda to this moment. The actor who plays Pete, Cole Brings Plenty, died in April 2024 after going missing in late March. It all started when his hair was cut off, which was the last straw that broke the camel's back for Teonna as well. I imagine they'll recast him, but it's still very sad. In court, Banner hears the murder charges read against him, but he's released without bail because Jacob and the sheriff don't have any evidence beside testimony. To make things worse, Jacob doesn't have the money to feed the cattle and the bank won't give him a loan, but he finds some relief in Don Whitfield, who paid his property taxes.
As I'm sure you're aware, if I'm not repaid by the end of the year, the deed reverts to me.
Man, that's bad news. And it's also a cliffhanger, but hardly the only one. The ship Alex and Spencer board to get to London ends up being the same one her ex-fiancé and his family are using, and things get tense.
You are challenged, sir. Choose your weapon.
Spencer kills for a living, but genuinely doesn't want to kill this whippersnapper until...
I do not use you, Yankee scum! I do not use...
Alex's best friend stands up for them, but because Alex is royalty, we all find out she's the Countess of Sussex, which is just stunning. He's taken to port in a dinghy, and she's left behind.
Embarrassment! I'm coming to embarrassment, Montana!
Will she ever see Spencer again? Part of me says maybe not, because remember, Elsa and her husband Sam never really got a chance to say goodbye. So there is precedent in the Taylor Sheridan universe. I hope they get a chance to meet again, even if it ends tragically. How about you? Comment below and subscribe because our weekly episode recaps and previews are going to start very soon. I'm Billy Dukes for Taste of Country. Thanks for watching, and thanks for subscribing.